In 1945, American soldiers discovered something that stopped them cold. The concrete bunkers were unlike anything they'd trained for. The engineering was decades ahead. How did the Germans build them so fast? What secrets were hidden inside? Could American forces have breached them? One general's reaction changed everything. The discovery. How did the Germans build them so fast? Spring 1945. American troops push deeper into German territory. They expect resistance, but nothing like what they find. Massive, concrete structures rise from the earth. These aren't ordinary bunkers. These are fortifications so advanced, so perfectly engineered, that hardened soldiers stop and stare in disbelief. Engineers step forward to examine them. Their first words? Shock. Pure shock. These bunkers shouldn't exist. Not like this. Not this strong. Not this intelligent in design. One engineer runs his hand along the concrete. It's thicker than a tank. The angles are calculated. Every corner, every wall, every entrance designed to stop an army. But here's the question that haunts them. How did Germany build thousands of these while fighting on two fronts? The answer reveals a secret weapon Americans never expected. The Atlantic Wall. Revealing construction speed. Speed of construction. The Germans didn't build these fortifications overnight. They built them over years. But the speed? Still impossible by normal standards. It started in 1940. Hitler ordered the Atlantic Wall, a line of defense stretching 1,670 miles along the European coast, from France to Norway. Thousands of bunkers, millions of concrete blocks. The secret wasn't magic, it was organization. Germany used slave labor, thousands of workers forced to mix concrete, pour foundations, and reinforce walls. They worked in shifts, day and night, no breaks, no mercy. They also prefabricated pieces. Bunker sections were built elsewhere, then transported and assembled like puzzle pieces. Time-saving genius, but at a terrible human cost. American engineers later calculated, Germany poured enough concrete to build a highway across America twice. But the concrete wasn't half the story. Inside these bunkers, something even shocking. Engineering brilliance. What secrets were hidden inside? American engineers crawled into the bunkers. What they found made them take notes furiously. The design was genius, pure genius. Walls weren't straight, they were angled. Why? To deflect artillery shells. Curved ceilings, to absorb blast pressure instead of collapsing. Ventilation shafts hidden in unexpected places. Why? So poison gas couldn't reach soldiers inside. The entrances had clever traps. Multiple doorways created kill zones. If enemies broke through one door, they'd be funneled into a corridor with machine guns on both sides. Inescapable. The Germans thought about everything. Ammunition storage was deep underground. Command centers had thick walls. Medical rooms were separate from fighting areas. Even bathrooms were engineered for protection. One American said, "This is what you build when you believe your enemy will throw everything at you." The bunkers were built to survive not just attacks, but sustained bombardment for weeks. But there was one detail inside that made American commanders nervous. The hidden advantage, strategic secrets inside. Inside wasn't just about concrete and angles, it was about location. German engineers didn't place bunkers randomly. Every single one had a purpose. They were positioned to command high ground, control narrow passages, overlook beaches where Americans might land, create interlocking fields of fire, meaning one bunker could cover another's blind spots. The bunkers had sophisticated communication systems. Telephone lines connected them. Messengers could move between them through underground tunnels. It was a network, not just isolated forts. One bunker alone couldn't hold a position, but 20 bunkers working together? Unstoppable. American generals realized attacking one bunker meant fighting them all. Engineers also discovered something unsettling. The Germans had already planned for invasion. They'd studied American tactics, they knew how Americans would attack, and they'd built their bunkers to counter those exact strategies. This realization led one general to make a decision that shocked everyone. The decision. He ordered that the American forces working to breach the bunkers to prepare for war.
The general's reaction. One general's reaction changed everything. General Omar Bradley stood inside a captured bunker. Engineers briefed him on what they'd found: the concrete thickness, the ammunition storage, the interlocking defense system, the psychological design meant to break soldiers' spirits. Bradley's face changed. He'd been planning an assault on a fortified German position. Now he knew a direct attack would be suicide. His reaction? He changed everything. Instead of a frontal assault, Bradley ordered engineers to study the bunkers, understand their weaknesses, map their positions. He wasn't going to sacrifice American lives on a suicide charge. This moment, this single decision, meant American soldiers would live. Bradley realized the Germans had built something magnificent, but also something brittle in specific ways. The bunkers were nearly impregnable from the front, but they had weaknesses in other directions. Engineers began identifying those weak points. Underground tunnels could be flooded. Ventilation shafts were vulnerable. Supply lines were exposed. The breakthrough came when engineers realized something the Germans had overlooked. The vulnerability, strategic weakness. Could Americans breach them? The bunkers seemed invincible, but nothing is perfectly designed. German engineers had built for defense against direct attack. They planned for artillery, tanks, and frontal assaults. But they made one critical mistake. They assumed soldiers would always attack from the front. American engineers discovered the bunkers had blind spots. Approach from the side, the overlapping machine gun fields of fire didn't cover everything. Approach from behind, supply routes were lightly defended. Tunnel system vulnerabilities, water pressure could damage them. The Germans also built bunkers to last long sieges, but they needed something they didn't have: unlimited supplies. Once cut off, bunkers became prisons, not fortresses. American engineers developed strategies: isolate the bunker, cut supply lines, attack from unexpected angles, use specialized equipment, flamethrowers, explosives, exploit ventilation weaknesses. But the most dangerous realization came next, and it changed how America would fight for the rest of the war. The legacy. What Americans learned. American officers didn't just capture bunkers, they studied them, learned from them, improved their own tactics. German fortifications became classrooms. Engineers filled notebooks with observations. Officers studied the bunker designs. Strategies evolved based on German mistakes. This knowledge saved thousands of American lives. Later, when Americans built their own fortifications, both during World War II and after, they incorporated what they'd learned from German bunkers: stronger angles, better ventilation designs, smarter placement systems. The Germans had built a masterpiece of defensive engineering, and America turned that masterpiece into a textbook. Even today, military engineers study these bunkers. They appear in courses at West Point and other military academies. The design principles, overlapping fire zones, angled walls to deflect projectiles, underground tunnels for movement, still influence modern fortification design. The irony, Germany's greatest engineering achievement became the foundation for American military strategy. What started as shock and awe became respect and study. But there's one final discovery that shows just how ahead of their time these engineers really were. The revelation: timeless engineering. Standing in these bunkers today, 70+ years later, you see something remarkable. The concrete is still solid, the angles still make sense, the designs still impress modern engineers. This wasn't just military construction, it was engineering art. German engineers, forced to work under impossible pressure, with limited resources, knowing their work would be tested in actual combat, created something that endured. American soldiers and engineers who saw these fortifications up close came away changed. They realized speed came from organization and prefabrication, not magic, but brilliant planning. The secrets inside were all about intelligent design. Every detail served a purpose. Yes, America could breach them, but only by understanding how they worked. The bunkers taught Americans that the best defense isn't impenetrable walls. It's smart walls, walls that think, architecture that anticipates enemy tactics. Today, these same principles appear in modern military bases, underground infrastructure, civil defense systems, even space station design. When American combat engineers encountered the Atlantic Wall's German bunkers, their initial shock transformed into profound respect. These World War II engineering challenges revealed how German fortifications weren't just obstacles, they were masterclasses in structural design. The American reaction to German defenses shifted military strategy forever. Those D-Day engineering obstacles forced innovation that shaped modern warfare tactics. This World War II military engineering story reminds us that greatness exists even in our enemy's work. American engineers didn't just overcome these defenses, they learned from them. That knowledge became their greatest weapon.